see, I'll walk you through the entire flow of how a Spring Boot application works. Okay, so initially we had discussed the major components, right? So today we'll just do another revisit. Now this part is the front end. Okay, so as a backend developer, this is our scope. Okay, only what we have to do is take the data from the front end, process the data and give it back to the front end to display on the front end. That is the front end developer will do. This is the area of the front end developer. So our job is just to provide the data. We will accept the data, okay, and mostly this data which we will accept and what we will return back, this data will be in a JSON format. Okay, so JSON format is nothing, it's just like if I have an object, if I have an object of class student, this object is S1 and this object has a roll number and name. Whatever name it has, okay, name Alice. So this data is represented in this format, and then this is called as JSON format. So on the LHS is the class attributes and on the RHS is the value. So we will just return the data in this format and we will accept the data also in this format. Okay, so either you can do in JSON or you can do in XML. Okay, so if we are doing REST APIs, RESTful, then we normally use your JSON format, and if you are using SOAP APIs, then we normally use in XML format. So we will be writing RESTful APIs. Okay, RESTful APIs mean representational state transfer. What does REST stand for? REST stands for okay, so we will be making REST API, so our data will be shared in the form of, so this is the meaning of REST, representational state transfer. So here, from here onwards, our task will start. So this data which we can accept, as I mentioned, we can accept in three ways. Whatever input we are coming, we can take it as a path variable, as a request param, or as a request body. So in these three ways, you can accept the data from the front end. Okay, so in our cases, front end will be played by a API testing tool. That will be our front end. So you have many API testing tool. The one of the famous one is Postman. Okay, you have many of them. Okay, so I use this API dog. So this will act as our front end. So if you want to test your APIs are working fine or not, you open Postman and then with that help we can test the APIs. I'll show you that today. So assuming that if we have, or if you are good at JSP, if you're good at JSP, you can make a JSP page. Okay, make a HTML CSS page, and that can act as your front end. So here if I have, let's say, this student class, and I want to insert a record of this student into the database. So in the front end I will take two text boxes and one submit button. This text box will ask for the roll number of the user, this text box will ask for the name of the user, and here save. So now if I enter 101 and Alice. So first thing first, whatever data is coming from the front end, for that, to capture that data, we will need an object, right, to store all that, and for object we will need a class. So the data which is coming from the front end, to store that data, the class which is called, those classes are called as your entity classes. So you annotate that class with @entity. Okay, so this is a Spring Boot stereotype annotation. So IOC container will have the beans of @entity classes ready made. So this class which you will make, that will be your entity class, and then what, the entity class will just have the properties, that is integer roll number, string name, that's all. Constructors, getter setters, no logic, no business logic, no for, while, if, anything, that will not be there in these classes. No extension, nothing, no extends this, no inheritance, just simple Pojo classes. Okay, plain old Java object classes, these are your entity classes. Now when I click on save, when we would do in, what we would do in the JSP, so in the form we would give action, correct? So here also we will provide an action. Okay, so let's say if I give action called as /save. So now this will call, this would go to the web XML, so which would receive this request and map this request to a particular class. So here the web XML role will be played by the controller. So the first entry point into your application should be your @controller class. So now this controller class will have methods. So let's say the first method it has is public void save student, and now these 101 and Alice can come in three different ways. Okay, so it can come as path variable, it can come as request param, it can come as request body, and it is mapped to which endpoint? Save. So here you have to say, and I will be storing this record. So for storing we have post, so you can say post mapping, and then you can give at what is the endpoint you are calling save. So whenever /save will be there in the action, it will be routed directly to this method save student. So if I change this over here in the action, if I change, if I say save, if I say add student, then this changes I have to make over here in the controller, so that your front end is synced up, that you will know that which endpoint we are calling. It's called as endpoint. So we know which endpoint we are trying to invoke. So now we are trying to invoke the add student end. And then we would also provide the method, right? So we would also provide the method. So which method are we using over here? Because we are doing a post mapping. If you would provide method called as get, then we would be using what? Get. Okay. So like this we have get post. Okay, we have put for update, and then we have delete to delete a record. So these are the four famous HTTP methods. What are they? HTTP methods or HTTP verbs. So if they ask in the interview what are the HTTP methods you have worked on, so we can say post. Post is usually for inserting. To insert a record, we use post. Get is to select a record whenever you want to do selection, and put is whenever you want to do update. If you want to do any updation, use put. And if you want to do any deletion, use delete. So that request will first come to the controller. Okay, controller will just receive the request. Controller is just like a receptionist in the application. The role of the controller is just like receptionist in a hotel. Well, we just receive. It's just like your web XML. In a in your JSP cases, controller is more just like a web.xml. We'll just do the routing, and now it will send. The controller will then route our request to the service class. Which class? The service class will have all the business logic over here. So this student, this controller method will have an object of the service class over here. Okay, so with the help of that object, let's say the object is serve, it will call the add student, whatever. You can have the same name everywhere, and whatever data it has come, whatever data it has received. So let's say the data which it has got is by your request param. So it has two variables over here: integer roll number and string name. So what we generally do is we create an object of the student class. Student S1 is new student, and whatever data has come from the front end, we store it over here in this object S1. So with the help of the parameterized constructor, and now this S1 is passed to the service. This S1 is now passed to the service. So this service also will have the method add student, but the argument of that will be now of student type. So now all your business logic, whatever you want to do, that if the percentage of the student is more than 90%, then you store. If it is not more than 90%, then you reject it. All such type of business logic will be taken care at the service end. Okay, and now to store this in the database, then we have one more layer that is called as repository. This repository is your data access layer, DAO layer it is called as repository layer. Okay, this is an interface. Okay, very important part of your application. and very dynamic, has lots and lots of methods which help you to interact with the database. Inbuilt methods, hundreds of inbuilt methods which will help you to interact with the, this is your actual database. Okay, this is, let's say, a MySQL database, and in that MySQL database you have your table. So what is the name of the table? You'll have student table, right? So this is your student table. We'll have two columns over here, roll number and name. So whatever has come from the front end, 101 and Alice, will eventually go and store over here in this table. So this is the forward direction from the front end to the controller to the service to the repository to the database. This was your insert. If the query was of save nature, what if you want to delete that? If you want to delete a record, so now you accept the employee number, you accept the you just accept the, let's say you accept the roll number and you want to delete that roll number. So you have the delete key now. You have this one button and you are deleting the record if this is the case. So you will have, in the action you will have delete student. Just make those modifications. You will have a delete student in the action, so that will come to the controller and you will have a method by the name delete student in the controller, and that would be what? Delete, right? Get post, then you'll have a delete. Okay, so you can have @request mapping. Okay, and what is the name of the endpoint? Delete student. And then what was the method we are using? Method we are using is delete. So there will be some endpoint like this, and there will be some method over here, public void delete student. It will take the roll number as an argument. Okay, and then directly it will send that to the service for deletion. Serve dot, if you call it function of that, and pass the roll number over. So in your service you will also have a function called as delete student, which will take a roll number as an argument, the primary key as an argument. And now this service will interact with the repository. So it will call the repo method. This is my own, okay, repo dot. So the repo has lots and lots of methods to do your database activities, inbuilt methods. So you'll have a method called delete by ID, delete by ID, and which ID you want to delete? This roll number. So interface is blank. This is a blank interface. You don't have to implement any method. Just keep it blank. Just use the built-in method. So this is a built-in method to delete a record. So it will go and delete a particular record. Then if you want, you can return a response back to the user, record deleted. So this will be returned. So you can return some response, whatever you want. Record deleted. Now this response is not void now, right? Now it is not void response. Now it is a string response. So you will write over here. You can also return a JSON object. You can also return a JSON object. So if you are returning a JSON object, make the controller as REST control. Whatever is flowing, if you observe, whatever is flowing in the application is your entity data is flowing, right? What is coming from the front end is the entity data. Coming to the controller is entity data. Going to the service is entity data. Going to the repository, entity data. Going to the database is the entity data. So entity is the data which is flowing in the application to and fro. So if I want to get all the employees, I want to see a list of all the employees. So I make a table in the front end. I make a table. In that table, I want to display all the employees. So from the database, I will fetch all the employees with the help of the repository in the service. From the service, I'll give it to the controller, and the controller will give it to the front end. So like this is data. So whatever data will be flowing in the form of the entity. So you have to master these 4 Spring Boot stereotype annotations. What are they? Spring Boot stereotype annotations. They are namely, which are they? What are they? Yes. Okay. So now let's create a simple Spring Boot application. So to start an application, we have a site called as Spring Initializer. Which site? You see? So there you go. Okay. And one more thing. When we were doing a Spring core, if I needed any external jar, what would I do? So if I wanted a jar for database, what would I do? Right click on the application name, correct?
Yes.
Then go to where? Configure build path, right? Then add external jars, and I would download the jars manually first, right? I would download all the jars needed manually and then add those downloaded jars, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
So now all that headache will be removed. So what Spring Boot does is, Spring Boot has a file called as form.xml. What is the file name?
Com.xml.
Yes. So that is stands for project object model. What does it stand for? What does POM stand for?
Object.
And it is a
Project
POM dot.
object.
It is an XML file. So all the jars which you will need, for that each jar you have a dependency. What you have?
Dependent.
So you just have to mention the dependency, and Spring Boot will automatically download that jar for you. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So just you have to mention the dependency name. So now to interact with the database, I need a MySQL connector. Yes or no?
Yes.
So we have to add the MySQL connector jar, right? We've been doing this all this while in our applications. I'll show you over here. This one. This jar we have to download manually and then add it over here, correct?
Yes, sir.
This is which jar? MySQL connector, correct?
Yes, sir.
So in the case of Spring Boot, this was Spring Core. In the case of Spring Boot, you just remember the task that I want a MySQL connector. So all you have to do is just mention that. So you see the Spring initializer? Open. Okay, so we can use these languages to make Spring Boot application, Groovy, Kotlin. Okay, so which language are we using?
Java.
Java. Okay, and we will use as a Maven as a build system. You know, you have two build system, Maven and Gradle, which we have. You have a Maven and you have a Gradle. Okay, and Spring Boot version will be using 3.0.6. Now the base package is, what do you want the name of your base package is over here? Okay, so you can give that artifact over here. Okay, so I want to give my artifact as com dot enumtic, all small, all small. Okay, and what is their application name? So let's say if we are making application for okay, so this group is your package name, and then this is what you are handling. So we are doing, let's say we are doing for, we have got a work for SBI. Okay, we have got a project for SBI. So this will be my package name, group name followed by the artifact. Okay, artifact is your application name which we are working on. So currently let's say we are working on the SBI project. We have got a project for SBI. So com.enumtech.sbi is your package name. Okay, which Java version you want to use? Okay, so as per your Java version, you all can download. Let's say if I'm using Java 1.8, I'll use Java 8. If you are using Java 11, use Java 11. Now here, what I was telling, what dependencies do we want to add? Just click over here. So what jar files you want? So if you are doing a basic project, we will need the dependencies, the jar file for web. So just write over here, just type over here web and just add that dependency. If you want to do database connectivity also, so if you see over here, MySQL driver, you saw.
Yes,
But as of now, I will not go into that detail right now. We'll just take the basic. Okay, so this dependency is more than sufficient for y'all for the basic app. Okay, so you can add many as we go on, we will add many dependencies. So now the task of adding the jar file explicitly, that is eliminated. Just we have to add the dependencies. And now generate will generate a rar file. Okay, you got it, see over here. So just place this rar file where you have your Spring Boot projects and extract it over there. So let it download completely, download it completely. So I go here, copy it, go to my folder where I have my jar files, my all my Spring applications. Okay, and I paste it over here and I extract it. Okay, once extracted, now we can go to our okay, so I opened my Eclipse, I go to file, I go to open project from systems file. Okay, So ओपन प्रोजेक्ट फ्रॉम सिस्टम, बिकॉज मेरा जो फाइल है वो हार्ड डिस्क पे है. यहाँ गए, you choose it now wherever you had extracted it, that folder. Okay, so you have your Spring programs. What is the folder name? SBI. Okay, this was the folder. You select it and you finish. So now it is configuring. If you see over here, configuring project SBI means it is downloading all the required jar files. So that time internet should be on. So when you are doing the Spring initializer and trying to open the project for the first time, that time internet connectivity should be on, because it downloads all the required jars file from the internet. See, it's updating Maven. So wait for this progress bar to complete and then go and open the project in the left side window. So ये complete हो गया, तो प्रोग्रेस बार यहाँ खत्म हो गया. अब जाना है अपने SBI में, और ये एक स्प्रिंग बूट का डिफॉल्ट स्ट्रक्चर रहता है एप्लीकेशन का. ठीक है, ये मेन जो है अपने कोडिंग के लिए है, और ये टेस्ट जो है अपने टेस्ट केसेस के लिए है. तो सेम होता है, देखो फोल्डर स्ट्रक्चर, src main java, src test java. So we will be coding in the src main java, and then if you see below pom.xml, so this is your, it has all the dependencies which we have used. Okay, so which dependency have we used as of now? We have just used starter web. Okay, and testing, for testing it adds one default for test cases. This we'll do later on. So here just we have to keep on adding dependencies. So if you wanted a dependency for MySQL, just copy this. Okay, and you should know the name of that dependency, so you can just add that over here. Just add the dependency name, MySQL connector jar, whatever. So it will automatically download the jar file for that dependency. Okay, so as of now we don't need that, so I'm removing it. So this is so easy. Pom.xml, just all your jars management will be taken care by the pom.xml. So now let's come back to here. So in our main Java, see now this is our main application, and this is, it has the your driver app. This is your driver application. So driver app just has main method. That's all. Okay. Now what we have to do is, first thing first, make folder for your stereotype annotation. Make folders. So make packages. So now in this SBI, make a package first for what? Tell me. What are the 4 stereotype annotations? Controller, then service. Okay, next
repository.
They all will be extension after your main package. Okay, so your main package which we had given while in the Spring initializer. So after that, sorry, and repository.java का इसने क्या क्लास बना दिया क्या? What did I wanted to make? I wanted to make a new package. I want name story and
Entities.
So make, so entity is also called as model. Okay, entity also called as model. So you can name it whatever you want. Okay, as per your logic. Model class or the entity class. Done. Okay. Now if you observe it, if you go to the resources, in the main resources, you will see a file called as application properties. Okay, so this will have all the configuration of your application, all the configuration details of your application, like what JDBC driver your application is using, what is the database you are using, what is the username of the database, whatever password of the database, all that will be done over here. Also, what is the server port? What is the server port we have? What is the server port? We are running on which server port? So let's say you can say I'm running on 8084. Okay, so when we will start our application, we will open the localhost colon 8084. Okay, you can keep on changing this. By default it will go to 8080. If I want to change it, I can change it over here in the application properties file. Now when I will start, now I need to create endpoints. I go to server, the controller. Okay, so I make a new class. Okay, so you can call it as your SBI controller. Okay, so now here, so now just for a default application, let me just make a function public void greet. Okay, and this will return what? Welcome. Now to, this is returning a string, right? So it is not void, it is a string. So if you are returning only a string, then you can annotate it as add controller also. Okay, so this stereotype controller is imported. Just import these. So now import this from the stereotype controllers. When you turn the mouse over here, it will prompt you to import it. Okay, and import it from the stereotype Spring Framework stereotype. Okay, the basic of your hello world program is ready. So now if you want to run this application, okay, let's check what JDK compiler we are using. By default it is going to 16. Okay, so if you want to change that, you can go to Java compiler, the build and here it is showing you what all. So you just check this, or if you want to change your JDK, you can change from here. So if I am using 1.8, apply and close. Okay, so it's rebuilding my application with my existing settings. So it's rebuilding the application. Okay, the building has been done. So to start the application, what you have to do is just go to your application program, right click, like normally run as Java application. Okay, so this should start your Spring Boot application, and then it will tell you in how many seconds the application started. Once you get that line, okay, now what is it telling? Okay, so this is your major minor issues. Okay, so it is telling that we want a latest version of Java. 1.8 will not help. So go over here, build path, configure build path. Okay, so you can go JRE over here, and you can go to add library, JRE systems library next. Okay, so JDK 17 you can take, or if you want alternate JREs, click over here and see what all JREs you have installed over here. So let's stick to Java 16. So if you have Java 17, yeah, Java 17. Okay, so let's take this workspace default JRE 17. Finish. Okay, remove the 16. Select and apply and close. Okay. Now if I do a rerun, this error should go. Okay, Spring Boot has started. So this is now starting the application. How do you know that it has started? At the end it will tell you how many seconds it took to start. See, once you get this message, started application in these many seconds, and at which port are we running this? 8084. Now this is a basic application, so you can test it on a simple browser also. So simple browser also we can test it. Okay, so what endpoint have we given? What is the endpoint we gave to the method greet, which we want to call? So in the controller, did I give any endpoint? No. So now let me give an endpoint. At the rate, let's see, is it? Okay, it has got get mapping. And now what endpoint do you want? Welcome. So now if I give a slash welcome after localhost, it will call this method and it will display me welcome to Spring Boot by Enum. So now let's run this. So all you have to type is localhost :8084 slash the endpoint, which is the endpoint slash welcome. So just come here, localhost 8084 slash, and type what? Well, the endpoint is what happened. Localhost 8084 and slash welcome. It is not following on. Yeah, this is correct. The application also is running on port 8084. Yes, and we are calling the endpoint welcome, and method is get mapping. Yes, get mapping can be, we can use a browser for get mapping. Localhost 8084 slash, this is not. Okay, let's try request map. Let's try request mapping. Okay, let's try request. Okay, we did not rerun the application. Whatever changes we made when I did get mapping, that time the application was already started, right? So it did not sense my changes. Just restart the application for that application to take effect, the for changes to take effect. So here Spring Boot is running. Wait for that line. Once you get that line, means your server is, the application has started successfully. So this should be the line which you should be waiting for. Started this application on this. Okay, now this line is taken effect. Now this endpoint is there. Now if you go there and try to hit, what happened? Okay, is it not taking get mapping? Is the browser not taking get mapping? Then you will have to do a request mapping. And now let's try to rerun the application. Spelling of welcome is right. Yeah. Application started. Yes. Go here to a. Still it is not detected. What error? Request mapping. क्या हुआ है ये? स्ट्रिंग तो कंट्रोलर भी ले लेता है, तो रेस्ट कंट्रोलर देने की जरूरत भी नहीं. If we are giving it in a JSON format, then we will require REST controller. This is just a plain string I'm returning, so this should not have any problem returning unless until it is not getting. The package structures are also correct. Yes, all the packages should have been a part of your main package. That also is correct. Noted it as REST controller also. Now we are doing it a greet here. So now let's try to rerun with the help of REST controller. So to rerun application, because now port number 8084 is occupied, so stop it and then do a rerun. Don't run the application on the running port. So start it, go to a browser. Yeah, it's REST controller is working. Okay, are you able to see the screen, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so normally what I use for testing Postman, but my this browser doesn't support Postman any longer. So I have another API dog tool. So how to test your APIs on this, I'll show you all now. Okay, by default, which is the default method, which is the default HTTP verb? Get is the default HTTP verb. Okay, so if here I just said request mapping, so request mapping can take any of the get or post, both. So if you want to explicitly specify, you can you can put over here also, which, if I'm doing request, but which method I want. Okay, so you can specify over here also which method. Okay, Then for that you have to write over here value equals to welcome and method equals to request method dot get, if you want it like this. So request mapping will take get and post both. So you have to say what endpoint, and if you are using post, then you have to mention over here dot post. Okay, but now the browser cannot detect the post directly. So if you are writing post, then you have to write some HTML code, because the browser by default cannot detect the post method. So now let's go to the let's go to so now just revert back to where we were originally. Request mapping, we were here, right? Okay, now we've imported the REST controller also, done a save, and now my API dog is opening. Okay, API dog has opened new project. Okay, so let's give the project name. So this, and now in this project, how to test our application. So now create over here new API. So what I want is just what is the endpoint of our API? So whatever we are running from the browser, just copy that URL and paste that over here. And which method are we using? Get, and we are not passing any parameters as of now. This is just a sample. Save it. Okay, this is hello world, nothing much in it. Okay, save. Okay, now if you want to run this API, just click on run and then do a send. So it will return the response over here. It will return the response over here to you. What environment does it want? Okay, environment, just do local. Okay, you see this?
Yes.
So now we are not passing any request param, we are not passing any body. This was just a simple hello world application. So this is the tool which will act as your front end. So whatever output, so if I was expecting that if I give 101 and I should get the output as Alice, so that output of Alice will reflect over here. Okay, so this data which I was telling initially, that will get response. So this sort of response we will get over here at this part. So who understood the basics? See, now the jars in your previous application, let's say, where is my previous application? This is my previous, right? So what all jars we had downloaded, this all we had explicitly downloaded, uploaded, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But now in your Spring Boot, if you see in your application, we did not do explicit upload of any of the jar file, right? But see over here, all these jars file it has uploaded. From where? So you see testing, JUnit, JUnit, JUnit. These are all what testing. These are all for testing, and these are all the jar file in the web. So the web contains all these jar files, Jackson. Okay. So now if they are 25 over here, if I want the data, if I want a jar file for, let's say, the connector, my MySQL connector. Okay. So all you have to do is go to the Spring jar. You see my Spring jar?
Yes, sir.
You see, right? So you go to add dependency, and what you say, MySQL, correct? So now if you go here, go to explore. Now we already have a jar file, right? So you won't generate this. Go to explore, and now which is the dependency for MySQL? You see over here? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, sir.
Just copy that much part and put it in your pom.xml, and then do a refresh. So now do you see any dependency for SQL connector right now? Do you see any? In M, what do you have? In M, you have micrometer, Mockito, Mockito. Only 4, right? So now if I go to my POM XML, and if I add this dependency, MySQL connector jar, okay? And now just refresh this. So what we have to do is, we have to Maven, and then you have to do a update project, or you can do a project clean. Simple is just do a project SBI and do a project clean. Okay. So now what it will do is, it will go and download the dependency for MySQL connector jar. Okay. So now if I run this project, it is launching the SBI application. So it is downloading all the jars. So just minimize it, now maximize it. So now you see over here MySQL connector. Yes, no.
Yes, sir.
Earlier we had only 4 M's, right? Micrometer, Mockito, Mockito. Now what do you have? So who downloaded this jar? Did I go and download this jar and then add to external jars?
No, sir.
So who managed that for me? My pom.xml. Who managed this for me?
Pom.xml.
So like this, whatever task you want to do, you just need the dependency for that. Okay. So it's very simple. Okay. So just Google it. So in your real world environment, if you want, what is the dependency? So just go, just simply do Maven dependency for MySQL connector. Okay, just hit this, and you see this Maven repository, the first site.
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
just go over there in the first site. Okay, and this will give you the dependency. So this will give you the dependency, which dependency to use. Okay, so use the latest one. So click on this 803. Okay, so 80, the latest one. This was released just last month. And here if you see, this is the dependency. You have to just take and paste it in your format. Got it, guys? So you can
Yes.
search on the Google, or you can search in the Spring Initializer. Make sense? Hmm?